Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Wilson?
Here.
Kokoskova?
Here.
Hott?
Here.
Hilshewski?
Here.
Munns?
Here.
Funkhauser?
Here.
Spears?
Present.
Teeling?
Here.
Form of steps.
Okay, just so everybody knows, George is calling in, so if you can speak clearly into your microphone, I'm sure that would help him out. Can you hear me, George?
I can hear you. Thanks, Gary.
Okay. Do we have any amendments to the agenda? Okay, no amendments. We do have two presentations this evening. The first presentation is a presentation of checks to Kendall County PADS and Meals on Wheels. Just to let you know what this is a little competition that the City Council was challenged to by the Park Board. They challenged us to a contest in the beverage tent on Friday evening of Hometown Days to see who could garner the larger amount of tips. Well, needless to say, it wasn't much of a challenge. But the City Council was victorious, but we still agreed to pretty much split the profits to the two worthy charities. So I would like to introduce both charities. If Meals on Wheels would like to come up first. That was the charity that the City Council had played for. And Ken, if you want to come up for both presentations, because it was a joint Park Board City Council. And this is Louise from Meals on Wheels. And Louise, with the City Council collecting tips for Meals on Wheels is $288.38.
Wow, that's
We're thinking next year the City Council might be serving on Sunday. It'll be probably triple of it.
Sunday's the day.
Sunday's the day. Yeah.
Great.
So, okay, so that's the big check, and we'll do a little check for you.
Thank
And you can take it back and display that in the feature center. And that's your
Thank you
escape.
so much.
Louise, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
We do have Sheriff Randall here who's going to accept a large check on behalf of PADS. And this was the Park Board's charity, it was PADS. And
The city always had to get more anyhow, right? Well, thank you very much.
absolutely, sir.
Got it? Very good. Well, the PADS group really does appreciate everything that anybody does for PADS. It's been an outstanding program last year for the first time, and now our second year with over 300 volunteers. So keep up the good work. We'll see you next year.
Okay, our next presentation is, I asked Mike Reynolds from the Southwest Fox Valley Cable Television Consortium to come in and do a little presentation. I know with some of the aldermen being new on the council with this last election, a lot of us aren't really aware of all the benefits provided by Fox Valley Television, aside from the fact that our meetings are on Channel 10. So I asked Mike to come in and give us a little overview and answer any questions that the council may have. So you take it away, Mike.
Thank you. We appreciate it. My name is Mike Reynolds, and I work for Fox Valley Television, and hopefully you all are familiar with that channel. I remember the last time I was here, I was just introducing myself for the first time and had a vision and a hope that we would form a great partnership with Yorkville, and I believe that we have. I've enjoyed working with a lot of folks in the community. As I look around this room, I recognize a lot of faces, some great supporters, some people that we've worked with. We have, since we've begun, trained 172 people. It's community members of Yorkville, Plano, Sandwich, North Aurora. But Yorkville is one of our biggest sources of public access users. And if you're not familiar with the concept, what we do is that we provide training and video equipment to folks to learn to create programming for and about their community. And once they're trained, we also provide them with a channel to put the programming that they produce onto. So it is truly local television. It's a access to the media that doesn't exist in any other form. And that initially was through cable television, because cable has the ability to reach each town individually. So we are on cable channel 17, that's where we began. But since then, so many things have happened. Since then, we have split apart our public access programming and our government programming, so we're now on 2 cable channels. Channel 17 is where you'll see programs made by community members, and Channel 10 is where programs that are more specific to the cities now occur, such as the taping of city council meetings, notices with regards to city events, and so forth. We're also on AT&T Channel 99. And best of all, you don't have to have cable or AT&T to see our programming, because we're also on the web. We now stream our programming on fvtv.info. So those folks that don't have cable or AT&T can also see our programming as it occurs live. So community members, staff, and so forth have worked with the city. And I was trying to think of some of the things that we've done, and just a short recap. Not only do we do the city council meetings, we've been at Hometown Days now for probably 5 or 6 years every year. Working with Parks and Recreation to help promote the event and also provide coverage of the event. We've done seminars on SSAs. We did the landfill hearings. We've worked with the local middle school in their youth theater camp. We've had some programs that we did with the police department behind the badge that introduced a lot of the folks that the police department work with, and hosted by one of the members of the police department. We did a show called Inside Yorkville that was done by city staffers. And I think what's unique about this is that these folks took the training. In the police department, city staff, and also on the council are people that have been through this training program. And I think that they can speak to you if you have any questions about what it's all about. And I think it's been a positive experience for all of them. We do the 4th of July parade. Some of our users have done that. We currently do a program called Fox Valley in Focus that we have as an instrument to bring people from the city in so that they can talk about upcoming events. Most recently, we had Tim and Scott come in to talk about Hometown Days to help promote it, and we'll do little commercials about those events and so forth. So we're really, I hope you feel, I do feel that we're part of the fabric of the community of Yorkville. We've been here for a while. We're striving to be perhaps better recognized in expanding our programming and making it available to more people. Along those lines, I wanted to give you a little update. Not only have we, since I've last been here, started a separate channel just for the government programming, but recently, with the addition of meetings from the community of Sandwich, we've expanded the airing of the Yorkville City Council meetings. So you're now on 6 days a week at either 11 a.m. or 3 p.m. or 7 p.m. at night on a rotating basis. So I hope that you recognize and feel, as I do, that that's a great service to the community of Yorkville, and perhaps opening up the process of government has been a positive experience for you all. That's one of the things I think we're really especially proud of in partnering with Yorkville to do that. And really, besides that, if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Anything specific that you'd like to know. We are, if you're not aware of how we're funded, it's from the cable subscribers pay a franchise fee, and that's a fee that would normally go to the city. And by an intergovernmental agreement, a portion of that money is turned over to the Southwest Cable Consortium. And I'm proud to say that for a pretty good period of time now, at least a couple of years, we've been consistently returning 50% of that money back. So we're very aware of the financial times that we're in, and when your budgets come up, you know, we hope that we're a service that you'd consider to be vital to your community, and we continue to serve you in a very positive way. We're also very open, and I always, when I come to one of these things, ask for input. We have a means of putting bulletin board ads up on our channel. You can just go to our website, fvtv.info, and click on bulletins. Any community event, any nonprofit group that wants to get their message out there, you can simply fill it out on your computer and send it to us. If you have an event that you feel warrants coverage and video coverage, please let us know, because we're happy to do that. We try and keep our finger on the pulse of the community, but really our information comes from you all. So we appreciate your participation, are proud to have been working with you for so long, and hope to do so in the future. So, does anybody have any questions?
Now, the studio itself is at Wabanzi. If anyone is interested in seeing the studio, all the equipment, the operations there, I'm sure Mike would be happy to give a tour at any time. So,
Absolutely. We have remote equipment, which is what you see here, taping the meetings, and we have a very great relationship with Wabanzi Community College that has an excellent studio facility. Oftentimes, public access ends up in a building that's not really designed for television production, but they have a wonderful facility, and that's available to anybody that's taken our training to use. It's just a matter of reserving it. We also have computer editing systems, and I enjoy the technology, and I enjoy teaching it too. So I think, if you've been through the class pros, I think you would admit that it's maybe daunting at first, but it's kind of fun when you get into it. So it's what I love to do, is to share my skills with people, and hopefully they can turn around and really reflect the community, and that's what we're all about in terms of public access. And it's really a unique thing, and I hope you feel that it's a beneficial service to the city. Okay.
there was one question, I hope you don't mind me bringing it up, Chris, but we had a conversation about posting our city council meetings online. We used to be able to do it. We haven't since we lost our IT person.
Right.
Is there any way that FVTV can help us with that? I know I had even talked to you about maybe getting access to like your producer's YouTube account, where we can post meetings longer than 20 minutes for a period of time, just put a link on our page. Is that something you think, Mike, that's possible? Or
It's absolutely possible, and we'll do everything we can to support you. I'm not sure what our time limit is. We've been on YouTube for a while, and it kind of depends on how much you use it as far as how much time you get. We do have some space, as I explained to you, on our own website, where we might be able to rotate through meetings and maybe keep a couple of meetings so that we're somewhat current, but people can refer back to the meetings. We have always archived the meetings and had formerly turned them over to the city where they would put them on the website. I can still provide you with those files, and perhaps you could put me in touch with your webmaster, and maybe I can take over that function for you and get those to them so that they could also put them back where people expect to find them. So there's another option for you.
because I know we had talked, several of us, about wanting to get those videos back up as soon as we can. So
Okay. I'll go ahead and start posting them on FVTV immediately, and I'll let you know via email where they're going to end up, if it be YouTube or FVTV. But in a long-term basis, we want to find some place that we can have a deeper archive so that people can look back a little further. So I'll work to get the best accommodations for that I can.
Okay, and Bart, you can follow up on that? Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you very much, Mike.
All right, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
We have no public hearings this evening. Do we have any citizens' comments? Sir?
Good evening, Your Honor. Your Honor, I'd like to give a citizen's report on the day that Sheriff Joe Arpaio came in from Arizona. There was a lot of, and I think it's important, there was a lot of media speculation, there were a lot of reports, there were a lot of negative newspaper reports, there were a lot of negative reports on the internet. There was a lot of negative reports on the radio, with the media spewing out. As Samuel Clemens once said, Those who don't read the newspapers are uninformed. Those who do read the newspapers are misinformed. And that was the case again. Your Honor, I felt that this was very important for me to go to this function. Even though I am a Republican, I'm a Republican in according to the United States Constitution, which defines what a Republican is. I went to that function, Your Honor. I had heard all the negative press and everything. I had asked my wife, I had bought 2 tickets, I asked my wife, I said, now, the press is pushing all this stuff, it was on the news and everything, are you sure you want to go? And she said, of course. She said, do you want to go? I said, of course. Okay. So, I went to the function, hung around with the fellows, helped to do the setup. The sheriff arrived, and I spent the time there with him from the time that he arrived to the time that he had left. I know a lot of people in government had been told, do not go. They had received threats, political threats, whatever you want to call them. And Your Honor, I just want you to know that when I was with the sheriff, him and I talked quite a bit. During that time, he was very kind to me, very respectful to me. And I got a little nervous, and I said, now, Sheriff, I want you to know that I am an American, but I am of Mexican descent. His response to me was, and I quote, why hell, why should that matter? Why should I care? He never cared one bit. During that whole time I was there taking photos of him, he would ask me, did you get that shot? Would you like to retake it? Do you want another one? And 2 times for this sheriff that the press reports as being a racist, gave me his cell phone twice when he was talking to somebody on his staff, and he said, here, you talk to him, tell him I'm busy. He entrusted me with his cell phone twice. At the end of the day, the sheriff put his hand on my shoulder and said, I just want to say thank you for being there with me today. And I had not done anything. So I think that the press did an extremely poor job of covering this story and reporting the facts. CBS News was there. They sent a cameraman with no reporter. All they wanted was a video clip. The sheriff joked at him and said, you only sent half a crew? They said, well, we're cutting back, you know. He says, well, why don't you ask me some questions? Said, well, there's union rules. Union rules, is it that difficult to hold up a microphone and ask questions? Univision was there, Mexican channel. He says, the sheriff looked at me, smirked, and he says, yeah, I'm going to get a fair deal out of these. And I've watched that lady before, and I can tell you, if there's a reporter, there's a difference. If there's a difference between a reporter and the press, I don't know what it is. I was thinking back, Your Honor, there are 3 cases in which I see a difference between Republicans that live in according to the Constitution of the United States and the Democrats which prefer the power that they get. I cite 3 cases, Your Honor. The first case, you will remember that you held up a microphone for somebody who disagreed with you. You took questions from your citizens. Whether they were members of the press or not was not important. The fact that they had a voice was the important thing to you. Randy Hultgren, as we witnessed here a couple of weeks ago, also had a town hall meeting. He respectfully took the questions, even from people who opposed him. This is what a Republican does. Sheriff Arpaio was brought in through another entrance. After having some snacks and getting his interviews, the sheriff asked me, knocked me on with his elbow, he said, let's go talk to some demonstrators. I looked at him, I knew what the demonstrators were like. I said, sir, why in the hell would you want to do that? His response, well, that's all right. There's still a Constitution, a First Amendment. These folks have a right to their opinion too. And this man, without obligation, I had seen the itinerary, I knew what the program was, made time to go out of his way, down the hill, to greet, talk to the demonstrators, let them air out their grievances, exactly as outlined in the United States Constitution. Compare that, Your Honor, to Rahm Emanuel of Chicago, to Dick Durbin, Senator of Illinois. When they are pressed with hard questions, the very first thing people ask or state, you are not a member of the press. You don't have a right to ask a question. You are not. This happened to William J. Kelly. Dick Durbin, attempted to define what the press is. The United States Constitution, Your Honor, the very first words are, Congress shall make no law as to determine who the press is. Yet that was exactly what Dick Durbin did. The difference, Your Honor, or I should say, there was a First Amendment and a Second Amendment. One to bear arms, one to freedom of speech, and the press. The First Amendment, people argue. Can the press write what they want? Absolutely. Freedom of the press. You have no right to tell the press what to write. We, as Second Amendment people, are controlled by our government. But there is a difference, Your Honor, and members of this council, between the press, who handles the First Amendment, and citizens who exercise their Second Amendment rights. The people with the Second Amendment rights recognize there is a responsibility that goes with that right. The people of the press, who call themselves professional, exercise no responsibility. Often when they make a mistake, back page, small print, sorry about that. In this, Your Honor, I believe that our city was unfairly, not only unfairly, but unjustly given a black eye by an irresponsible press. I thank you, Your Honor, and I yield the floor back to you and this honorable council. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Okay, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second?
Roll call.
Colosimo.
Aye.
Machuski.
Aye.
Spears.
Aye.
Munns.
Aye.
Funkhauser.
Aye.
Gilson.
Aye.
Teeling.
Aye.
Pat.
Aye. Okay, next we have minutes for approval. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the City Council for August 9th, 2011 and August 23rd, 2011.
So moved.
Second. Comments or questions on minutes?
I just have, on the August 23rd minutes, page 5, Under Community Liaison Report, the second paragraph, the title should be Area Agencies Board. It should be Area, A-R-E-A. And the very last sentence on that page, serve 10 million meals rather than 10. And that's it.
On page 6 of those same minutes, August 23rd, third paragraph, we talk about my breakfast with Congressman Holmgren. His name is Holtgren. You have spelled H-O-L-G-R-A-M. It's H-U-L-T-G-R-E-N. E-N. And that's throughout the whole paragraph, wherever you refer to him. Anyone else on minutes? Jackie?
Same page under additional business about the hotel tax. I just lost it. I asked if there was a way the council could get an update as to what has been paid to the Tourism Bureau since January. And then under Game Farm Road, I asked when the patching of the road would begin. So if we could just, you have that, I asked if the city would be getting patching. I asked when the city would be patching Game Farm Road. More importantly, on the hotel tax, that's, thank you.
That it? Anyone else on minutes? All right, all those in favor of approving minutes as amended, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next is mayor's report. And it wasn't on our agenda because I kind of got it at the last minute. But I do want to read a proclamation. I usually don't like doing these proclamations, but this was an important one. It came from the Daughters of the American Revolution, and it kind of goes to what Jesse was talking about earlier, Constitution Week. There is a proclamation for the United City of Yorkville. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated by rule of law, and whereas September 17th, 2011 marks the 224th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Therefore, I, Gary J. Galinsky, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Mayor of the United City of Yorkville, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United City of Yorkville to be affixed this 13th day of December in the year of our Lord, 2011. Okay, and the next thing in the mayor's report is intergovernmental agreement for the reconstruction of Illinois Route 47. And this is a whole series of motions here. Do you want me to start off with the first motion here, or? Okay. So I will entertain a motion to approve an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement between the United City of Yorkville and the State of Illinois Department of Transportation for the reconstruction of Illinois Route 47 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved. Second.
Okay, and Bart has a little presentation to go over the whole construction project. And then we'll open up to questions and concerns and debate.
All right, so it occurred to me during the last city council meeting when a couple of the questions were posed that not since I could recall have we really had a good overview of what's actually going to occur the next several months in Yorkville, and figured now is probably as good a time as any before we actually approve the intergovernmental agreement for the project, just to give everybody a little bit of an overview of what is actually going to be constructed over the next 3 years. So in general, you're looking north all the way to Carpenter Street, south to Fountain View Drive, and that's roughly Kennedy Road to Route 71, or just south and north of those two regional roads. And it's going to be a 5-lane urban cross-section, which means the entire construction project is going to result in a concrete roadway with curb and gutter throughout, which is a far different profile than we currently have. And no work on the bridge yet. There is a possibility that in a few years from now, they might open up the bridge to some deck work, but nothing planned as part of this project. And here's a crude map of the entire project. That's actually a shot of the city almost north to south, and we can see that it's the main artery, the only artery through the city, and it's almost the entire length. So it's an important project. Streetlights was the first thing that was asked about at the last meeting. And so in the packet we included a map of existing, past, and future locations of these streetlights. IDOT is only going to be constructing the conduits and the bases for these decorative streetlights. And there are some streetlights that are on ComEd power poles that we'll maintain after the project is completed. The reason for this, one is upfront cost. I threw out the number $1.1 million at the last meeting. Turns out our engineer's current estimate is about $700,000 for decorative streetlights. It's actually easier for us to do this project after the roadway is constructed because there's more room for the crews to work. So we're actually achieving some efficiency by not outlaying the money now and doing it ourselves perhaps 3 or 4 years from now. Here's a schematic of what our ITP plan called for and the specs that we bid out for that engineer's estimate. So it's combination lighting. There's a roadway lighting overhead, obviously, and then a pedestrian level lighting with some decorative features, and then black powder coating. Throughout the entire project, we're going to be getting new traffic signals. As you widen the roadway, you're going to have to take out all of the existing bases and traffic poles and put up new ones. So there are 4 intersections on Route 47 that are going to be getting new black powder-coated combination lighting. Now, these aren't necessarily decorative. They're not going to be textured. They're not going to have ornamental corners. It's going to be kind of a standard issue pole, but it will be black powder coating. And the 4 intersections are listed right there on the screen. And then 3 other intersections, one of which is not actually on Route 47 because of the scope of the project, are just going to be getting new traffic signals. So here's a schematic of a sample of one of them. So they are a bit of an upgrade from what we currently have now. This is kind of going to be the hub of the city as far as traffic flow goes, Route 34 and 47. It's going to be one of the biggest impacts as far as traffic flow goes in the city because we're going to have 4 through lanes on each road, 2 left turn lanes, and then a dedicated right turn lane. So you can see in the schematic here we actually have a square crosswalk in the middle of the intersection along with islands with crosswalks going to each island. So that is a fairly sizable upgrade for the area. Downtown changes. We've talked about this actually as recently as a year or 2 ago. There are sidewalk cross-sections in the exhibit, and I passed out some additional ones here. Basically, you're going to have a raised sidewalk for most of the profile of the downtown between Van Emmon and Hydraulic. You're going to have a Texas barrier wall back at curb, which will have some design features on it, and colored crosswalks, colored barrier walks, and some ADA ramps on the sidewalk, which is going to result in some vertical faces that will be stamped and colored, so it'll look nice. But it'll also result in just narrower sidewalks overall. So also, we did take out the decorative fencing and handrails, so we're going to have straight galvanized steel fences and handrails, similar to what we currently have on the bridge. And obviously no on-street parking. And so here's a couple schematics we pulled from the plans of cross-sections of the sidewalk. So this is the roadway down here to the right, and this is the sidewalk up to the left. So we can see the vertical barrier wall right there, and the decorative fence, which is removed, so now it's just a fence, on top of the barrier wall. So here's another cross-section. This would be on the west side of Route 47, probably up near Kendall Pub. The sidewalk is actually going to be at street level, but there will be a barrier wall back of curb, obviously, for pedestrian safety. And here's an example of the ADA ramp. So again, the roadway is to the lower right, and we've got a vertical barrier wall back of curb with a couple fences, and then obviously another vertical wall for the ADA ramp. Again, this section right here is going to be textured and colored, and it's I believe it's 3 feet wide on both areas. Here's a side view of that same area. So again, you can see the fencing on the top, and then this is the stamped concrete rock pattern, brick pattern, on the vertical wall of the ramp. Other changes. Starting next year, we are not going to have hanging baskets in the downtown. The streetlights are going to be gone, and it wouldn't also be safe to have our employees down there watering in the middle of a construction site. Other removals, the entire Mueller building, which is the southwest corner of Van Emmon and Route 47, is going to be removed per the project in order to make way for the intersection. Adjacent to the Mueller building, just south of it, the large retention wall that currently seems to prop up the courthouse on the hill is going to be removed and replaced with graded landscaping. And there is an agreement that the city currently has with Mueller that if he wants to build on his property and the rest of the IDOT easement, he can do that and then landscape it himself and maintain it. And we think that there's a chance that he may do that because it could support a mixed-use building there. There's going to be reconstructed intersection legs. North is to the right, so I had to turn everything. This is the courthouse right in the middle. Both Van Emmon Street and Fox Street to the west are going to have a few 100 feet of improved roadway. That's just because when we go through and reconstruct Route 47, it's going to change the profile of the area, so we had to change the side roads, or the connecting roads, in order to have the project be a smooth transition from roadway to roadway. Other changes to intersections. At Orange Street, you've got the east leg of Orange Street coming onto Route 47. It's going to become right in, right out only, and that's because of the school traffic there. The west leg is going to be left or right turn only, so you're not going to be able to traverse Route 47 on Orange Street in either direction. And here's a schematic or an aerial of this actual design. So obviously you've got the east section here, which is right in, right out, and on the west, there's not much that's changing, other than there will be traffic signs that say, no through access. Other changes to intersection. Elizabeth Street and South Main. It's right adjacent to Route 47, and right now it's kind of a unique, I would say it's a three-angled intersection, and it's going to turn into just a regular T intersection. And Elizabeth Street, as you can see here on the aerial, is actually going to be the through street. So you'll be able to progress down Elizabeth Street all the way to Route 47 without having to hit a stop sign or turn until you hit Route 47. And then Main Street, obviously, will incur the stop sign. We've got 3 types of crosswalks going in across the town. You have ladder bars on the left side there, parallel lines on the top, and colored crosswalks in the lower right. In general, the ladder bars are going to be used at your major intersections. Route 34 and 47, if you go back to that schematic, does have a lot of ladder bars. But a lot of the side streets are just going to have the parallel line crosswalks. And then almost everything in the downtown is still going to have a colored crosswalk. Crosswalks throughout the project. New crosswalks at Route 126. We're getting flashing beacons at Orange Street. Most of the cross streets are going to have crosswalks. However, at Hydraulic Avenue, we're going to have 3 crosswalks only. Again, north is going to be to your right here. So as you're coming southbound on Route 47 and you approach Hydraulic Street, there's only going to be a crosswalk just north of the intersection. South of the intersection it isn't safe because of the median, and you can kind of see it on the drawing here. And the railroad tracks are right there. So that didn't meet IDOT standards for having a crosswalk, so they moved it to the north side. Same type of situation for East and West Main. They try to minimize crosswalks in unsignalized areas. So this is one of them where the pedestrian traffic actually met their standards, so they decided to put in an unsignalized crosswalk. So that means there's no beacon, there's no stoplight or stop sign there. And so people will be able to cross there and be able to hopefully do it safely. Center Street, you can see there isn't. And this is just the north side of Town Square Park. So people may still use it for special events if we have traffic police out on the events, but there's not going to be a designated crosswalk in that area because it isn't safe. Center and Spring Street, again, no crosswalks on Route 47. Other areas, Route 34, we already talked about, they're new. Sidewalks and paths. We've talked a lot about those over the past several months, so I'm not going to get too much into them. In general, though, we are going to have carriage walks, which are immediately back of curb sidewalks in the downtown, near Flatzo's, and then between Washington and Fox Street. And that's just because the area there doesn't allow for sufficient right-of-way to be able to put a parkway and then a sidewalk. But regular sidewalks everywhere else. And then here's an example, obviously, of a carriage walk. The sidewalk on the east side of Town Square, so that's currently where the Town Square sign is, and there are some landscaping there, is going to be torn out. The city's going to receive compensation for it and then be required to reinstall it after the project. Stormwater in general, we're going to be responsible for maintaining swales, but there are going to be 3 large diameter, 60-inch outfall pipes that go into the Fox River near the current bridge. So the question was posed by staff several months ago, how is that going to look? Are people going to be able to climb into it? So there is some provision that there's going to be bars on the front side of it, but you do have to have access to it to be able to clear blockages. So we're hoping that it doesn't become an attractive nuisance because obviously 60-inch diameter outfall pipes can hold a lot of water, and if it rains, it could become an issue. New medians. We're getting a couple landscaped medians. Again, north is to the right. So what you're looking at here is just north of the intersection of 34 and 47. On Route 47, there's going to be a landscape median. We can decide at a later date whether we want grass, daylilies, or some other landscaping. Other random facts. This is what the staff could come up with just from people having called or talked to them. We tried to dispel some rumors. At all times during the construction project, there will be two-way traffic maintained on Route 47. So they're never going to have a guy out there with a stop sign or a yield sign for maybe longer than an emergency or a very temporary situation, holding up traffic. Construction can occur at any day and any hour. We've given them a variance to construct at all hours. Doesn't mean they're going to be out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But, for instance, it may be beneficial for them to shut down an intersection temporarily in the middle of the night as opposed to at rush hour in the morning. Construction bids are going to be solicited by IDOT in November, so we're going to have a better idea of cost, timelines, and staging at that time. They are scheduled to begin in spring. And that's actually going to result in some utility relocations in early spring. So ComEd will be out. They'll be moving some utilities maybe in March if it's warm enough. Right now, the staging is planned as the middle of the project, so that's going to be downtown first, then the south, and then the north last. There's 900 pages of design plans that we've talked about. Those actually have to be signed off by staff, and we will do that whenever the intergovernmental agreement is approved. And there are some provisions that allow for change orders to be approved in the field if something comes up. I put this in my memo. When we had in-house staff, it was a clear decision to make to have somebody on site to supervise water and other utility relocations and constructions. It'll still save us money even if we have to outsource it, because the alternative is that IDOT does it, and then we have no control over their approval of our utilities, and then we get billed for it. So at least if we're getting billed for it, we have somebody who we can control that can give the thumbs up or the thumbs down when those things are constructed. ComEd poles are going to be replaced, and they are going to be still wooden poles. And this is something that staff talked about a few years ago. I think it went to the EDC committee once. The estimate in 2005 to bury the lines for the entire stretch of Route 47 through the city in 2005 was $6 million. So with inflation, we could be looking at greater than $10 million. And that's money that either the city has to pay or the residents would have to pay on their electric bills. So it is something that you could pursue. You would have that option available to you, but obviously because of the extreme cost to it, we didn't think that was advisable. The Eternal Flame is not going to be impacted by the project. We don't have to move it. It's not going to be shut down. Although it is shut down right now, we are still working with Boy Scout troops on the actual innards of the utility to make sure that it operates safely. And if anybody is interested, I did pass out paper materials, which are the actual diagrams that I used for this presentation. Laura Schraw was kind enough to spend some of her time today actually color coding the entire length of Route 47 so you can see where the medians, crosswalks, the roadway, the turn lanes are clearly. So I've got paper copies of those. They were passed out to the aldermen. I can email them to the press or anybody here that's interested too. And that's it.
Okay, comments, questions on the motion, the agreement, Bart's presentation?
Your Honor, I have a question or two, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, sir.
The first thing was on the mural, which is slide 16 of 63. On the mural agreement, when they're building on the easements, what is the city's guarantee that they're going to maintain whatever they landscape or build on the easement? Do we have any agreements or any bonds or anything in place to make sure that they do maintain that?
No, the agreement was approved maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and it was pretty general in its language. And basically it just said, you have the right to build on this, didn't give them any entitlements from what I can recall, as long as you agree to maintain it. So if you were to come to us and say, I want to put up a mixed-use building and terraced landscaping, at that time I would think that we would ask for security for the maintenance or installation of those improvements.
Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, Bart, if anything is built of significance on that easement, we at that point will then ask NUMA for some security?
Yes.
Okay. Second question I had was the carriage walk. Bart, can you explain to me what's the difference between a sidewalk and a carriage walk, number one, and then can you tell me where, I know it says it's going to go at Plateau between Washington and Fox. Is that just going to go out along the side of the road in front of those areas?
Correct. A carriage walk is just a sidewalk that's immediately back of curb. So there's a picture of it in slide 29 out of 63. And it's there. Instead of it being roadway, grass, parkway, and then a sidewalk, the sidewalk is just immediately back of curb.
Okay, so we're just calling something that's immediately back at curb a carriage walk?
Correct.
Okay. The 3 60-inch diameter outfalls going in the Fox River, I have a couple questions on that. You talked about you kind of hit on some of the things that may happen with those big outfalls and the nuisances they may attract. Who's responsible for maintaining and repairing and replacing those outfalls?
It's a good question. Eric is pointing to us, which means we do.
The other question I had was, on those outfalls, since they're dumping into the Fox River, are those outfalls going to have to be inspected or tested for water quality?
No.
So, if and when these outfalls clog or attract nuisances or have to be repaired or replaced, that sole responsibility is going to be at the hands of Yorkville, of the city of Yorkville?
Yes, with one caveat.
To a point, anything over 8 foot in length that needs to be repaired, George, would revert back to the state.
I'm sorry, Eric, I had a hard time hearing you. Said anything over 8 foot?
Yes.
Anything over 8 foot of length would have to do what?
Would be repaired by the state.
Would be repaired by the state. So does that mean 8 foot from where these outfalls come into? I mean, how does that? What does that mean to me?
Just means length of pipe. So if there was 8 feet of continuous repair that was needed, we would call the state and they would come out and schedule it and then pay for it.
Okay. Just bear with me here, Mark. I don't remember, Bart, hearing about those 60-inch outfalls the first or second time around. Were those recently added? For some reason, I don't remember hearing that. Was that something we found out recently?
No, those have been planned in the project through as long as I can remember.
Okay. And that's the only way pretty much to handle that storm outfall is with those 60-inch diameter outfalls that are dumped like that?
Yeah, because we're adding, 2 new lanes of roadway in each direction, so there's a lot of surface area, obviously, that's creating runoff. So.
Okay. I don't know what slide it is, so you may have to help me there, Bob, but we were talking about the city, your slide says if the city wants to bury the power poles, I think you kind of explained it, but I had a hard time hearing it. If the city wants to bury the power poles in the city for this stretch could approach $10 million, what does that mean, bury the power poles?
Instead of having overhead power lines, you can actually underground them. It's a lot more reliable from a service outage perspective, but it's very expensive. And when an outage does occur, it takes a lot longer to pinpoint it. So it's just underground utilities instead of overhead.
I gotcha. Just bear with me. So I think that answers my next couple of questions, and that's obviously not a necessity, and we can do that at a later date if we deem that necessary. But the question I did have is, I guess I had a question. You said we could pass along on all electric bills. What does that mean?
One way that you can pay for it, I'm not exactly sure how it's authorized, but instead of the city as an entity paying for it, there's basically just a surcharge passed along on everybody's bill in the municipality. So I have no idea how much that would be, or if it would be based on usage or per account. But since we didn't think that it was advisable, we didn't do too much research on it.
Okay, so that's not something you're looking at doing currently, correct?
No, I just posed it as an option in case if somebody, said, why didn't they replace the wooden poles? We've got nice decorative street lights and, we've got these ugly poles behind them. Well, the poles are very expensive to replace.
Okay. Then the last question I had was we talked earlier previously about whether or not we were going to outsource staff on that to be on site, and we talked about the IDOT I think is going to bill us for that, correct?
No, we're going to outsource with EEI or with our, we'll do it in-house with our staff if there's anybody in Public Works that can do it. So we'll just get an invoice from EEI or whoever else we use.
Okay, do we have the staff to be able to do that ourselves without EEI, or do we have to have EEI present for that?
Some is going to be in-house, some will be outsourced.
What's the anticipated cost for that?
The overall cost that EEI estimated was just north of $100,000, and then some of that would be Mr. Sanderson's time or some of the other staff at EEI. So, but that would be rolled over 3 fiscal years.
So we anticipated those costs and have those budgeted for?
Yeah, the contract that we currently have with EEI is a hard cap on it per budgeted year, so it's something that we would have to, roll into our workload.
I think that's all I have. I appreciate it.
Diane?
I also have a question about the people on site to supervise water, storm sewer, and sanitary sewer relocations. I think there's going to be other parts of this project that we're going to have somebody out there on. Wouldn't you think? I don't know. It just seems like there's going to be a lot of extra engineering work that we're going to have to pay for.
No, that should really be it. I mean, we're paying IDOT to essentially engineer and build the project, and then we're responsible for making sure that our utilities are relocated and constructed properly.
Okay, so there's no other things that since we don't have a city engineer, everything is pretty much going to be out of our contract. It's going to be extra work. There's nothing extra that you anticipate that they're going to have to do?
No. I mean, it'll be rolled into the existing contract.
I mean, up to the cap?
Correct.
Yeah, and then everything over and above that is going to be extra. And you're anticipating $100,000 over?
$100,000 in billable staff time over 3 fiscal years.
Okay.
So they just looked at it and said, how many hours is it going to take us to do this, and that multiplies out to $100,000.
Okay, so that's just, and what's our contract with them already? How much is it per year?
180 per year. There's a flex cap at each quarter, and then obviously that's subject to budgetary decisions.
Okay. All right, so, but you don't anticipate any other expenses from engineering?
No.
Okay.
Not related to this project.
Bart, it's my understanding, having read the documentation, that if we adopt the agreement, we have to adopt all of the ordinances conveying the rights and the easements, et cetera.
Correct.
So that, might I suggest, Mr. Mayor, that the motion be a motion for the agreement and all of the ordinances itemized as A, B, C, and D on our agenda, because we can't adopt one without the other.
So we need a motion to amend?
No, you just have a motion to all motions in one vote, and we can read them into the record, but it would be one motion to approve.
Well, I think we already made the motion, so we'd have to withdraw the previous motion.
Okay, so yes. Withdraw the previous motion, make a new motion. Prior motions are withdrawn, new motion.
Okay. So they do anything to...
Carlson.
Well, I just wanted to clarify something Alderman Teeling said, that she made the statement for the public that we do not have a city engineer. We do have a city engineer. He's sitting right over there. It's EEI. So I want to clarify that we do have engineering services for the city.
We don't have an engineer on staff that gets paid a salary. We have a contract.
That's different than what you stated. You stated we do not have a city engineer. I want to assure the public that we do have engineers that represent the city. So that
Thank you, Carlo. Appreciate it for clarifying that.
I would like to touch on that point too. Bart, did you say it would cost $100,000 over a 3-year period? So it would be like $33,000?
Yeah, generally.
Oh, so clearly that would be less than we were paying our engineering department, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the budget for an entire engineering department was approaching $300,000.
Okay, thank you.
Couple comments. One, Eric mentioned that the replacement on the storm sewer would be for an 8-foot section. In the agreement, number 17, it states that for storm sewer repair, it's a 12-foot section. Just want to make sure that 12-foot section is our obligation, so a little greater, or actually a little lesser on that part. And then one comment that I had on the engineer's opinion of probable construction costs for the street lights that we had. I want to question the engineer's 15% follows the contingency. I wanted to find out if that should not be above the contingency. We're taking $7,800 additional into the engineering fees on a contingency factor.
We were just asked to provide a general estimate.
Okay.
We're just trying to get a ballpark numbers that you all plan.
Right. It's one of the, I'm glad you guys put that together. It's good to have more detailed numbers, but that's something I think that the contingency should be after your engineering fee, since that is for runovers, and runover should include engineering and should not be taken off the top.
Sure. Just a quick question on the roadway. When we extended Countryside Parkway a few years back, I think, Eric, you probably were around then, this council spent extra money on the concrete because we knew there was going to be a lot of truck traffic and a lot of abuse. How does this pavement compare to what we're doing, what we did back then?
I believe it's at least as strong as Countryside Parkway, if not much stronger. It's the same principle. It's made to hold up for the truck traffic for their continuous wear and tear.
It seems like it's held up quite well.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, just for the record, the previous motion was rescinded.
And now a motion on the issue, please be made to incorporate all of the ordinances before you on this matter.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement between the United City of Yorkville and the State of Illinois Department of Transportation for the reconstruction of Illinois Route 47, and that includes an ordinance approving an intergovernmental agreement, I just read that part, an ordinance regarding access drive roadway location near the intersection of US Route 34 and Illinois 47, to be transferred from the state of Illinois to the jurisdiction of the United Yorkville, and incorporating a resolution appropriating funds for the reconstruction of Illinois 47 Bridge Street from just north of Illinois 71 to just north of Carpenter Street, and incorporating an ordinance regulating parking on Illinois 47 Bridge Street and US 34 Veterans Parkway, and also including ordinance regulating encroachment on public right-of-way, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute.
So moved.
Second.
You guys got the easy part. Okay, so any comments or questions on the amended motion, which incorporates all the ordinances and resolutions? Roll call, please.
Spears,
Aye.
Colosimo,
Aye.
Funkhauser,
Aye.
Wilczewski,
Aye.
Teeling,
Aye.
Gilson,
Aye.
Pat,
Aye.
Mudd.
Okay, we have no Public Works Committee report, Economic Development Committee report.
Yes, Your Honor, let's make a motion to authorize city staff to begin the public notice process to various property owners in Bourbon County pursuant to 7-1-13 of the Illinois Municipal Code.
Comments or questions on this?
Just to start, this is brought to the Economic Development Committee, was moved forward with unanimous and sent to the City Council.
Well, I have a question.
One second, George.
Okay, sorry.
This is plan, it came out of EDC committee with unanimous approval to bring this forward and discuss, and there's information in the packet about it. This would be just authorization to let the city staff begin the process, not a vote on actually doing any ordinances tonight.
Okay, go ahead, George.
I had a hard time hearing that, guys, so I apologize if I repeat a question there. Can you repeat what was said, just so I'm up to speed and I don't repeat myself?
You kind of broke up, George.
I said I had a hard time hearing what was said there, so if you could repeat, so I don't repeat myself and duplicate the question.
Yeah, George, that was brought to the EDC committee just for, to get some information to possibly move forward on this. Was approved unanimously by the committee to bring it just to authorize the staff to begin the public notice of this. There's no vote tonight. There's no nothing moving forward. It's just a motion to authorize the city staff to go through all the things they need to go through and possibly bring this forward for a vote.
Okay. I've had a couple questions. The first question I have is it our intent, reading over the paperwork here, to forcefully annex without consent or agreement of the owners of these properties?
The agenda item is just to begin the process, so there's no entitlement or no guarantee that any action is going to be taken by City Council.
But by agreeing to this, what we're doing is we're giving the approval or our consent to the fact that these properties may be forcibly annexed against the owner's will, correct?
You're beginning the process, yes.
Okay. Has the city, I received an email, I don't need to read it, but I'm going to ask the question. Has the city attempted in the past to forcibly annex properties, and did they lose in a court of law when they attempted to do that?
I'm not aware of any situation in court or outside of court. The city has used this process. I have not studied the city's records, though, for the past 130 years to guarantee that.
Okay, just a basic comment on my behalf, and certainly everyone else can vote according to their convictions, but my own personal conviction on anything you do, and I've mentioned this in the past, with either eminent domain or forced annexation, I can't support that, and therefore, even to start this process for the potential of a forced annexation against the owner's agreement or against the owner's will or consent, I'll be voting no to this agreement.
Any other comments? Larry?
I just want to clarify something here. This is something that's been talked about for quite some time. And I think there's many residents in this city that don't realize there's a couple businesses right on 34 that are not part of the city of Yorkville, and therefore we're not getting any taxes, particularly sales taxes. And the numbers I'm getting here, we're losing out on approximately $25,000 a year, which God knows we can use that money. So I am a little surprised at the number of residences that were part of this plan. I didn't realize there'd be so many, but I think it's something we need to look into and pursue. And I mean, like I said, the money would be a welcome addition. So I think we should move ahead with this.
Rose?
I too would compare this to eminent domain, and for $25,000 to put that many residents financially strapped and just we'd also be getting extra taxes from them, but I think that originally when they bought their properties, they had no desire to be annexed into the city, and forcing them at this time now. Government is just, once again, I believe government would be overstepping its boundaries, and I would not support this.
Well, my position is I'm always very skeptical when government steps in and wants to force something upon a resident. However, we're not voting for that today. I actually don't have an objection to sending out the notices because it puts people on notice and gives them an opportunity to come in so they can be heard. I would like to know what the residents have to say. Some of these residents might prefer to be annexed and receive the city services that I don't know. So I am going to, my position is that, yes, I do agree that we send out the notices, but I want to make that perfectly clear that that doesn't mean I necessarily agree that we pass this ordinance when the time comes. But I would like to hear what the residents have to say. If they all come in here objecting, that's going to, obviously sway my opinion. If they all come in here saying that they think it would be great to be part of the municipality, then that might sway my opinion in the other direction. So I don't have a problem sending out the notices as far as it's to get their opinion, to get their input. But I just want to make it very clear that does not mean I'm an automatic yes vote for this annexation.
Marnie?
Yes, just clarify too, the committee discussed, we didn't really realize how many residents there were included in this, but the businesses that are sitting right on 34 that are taking advantage of being part of Yorkville and people shopping in Yorkville, and services, police get called, who's the first, police going to be on the site, it's probably the city of Yorkville for those couple businesses. So, again, we do have a lot more information to gain from, how many residences will be affected.
Correct. And just for everybody's clarification, there's not a provision in the code that would allow you to exempt certain parcels when the entire territory is wholly contained. So there's no discretion that we can have, as far as I know, in exempting certain parcels within that entire cloud. So it either has to be all or none, as far as I'm aware.
Is that correct, Caitlin?
Yes, we discussed the idea it has to be left for 50 acres, it has to be continuous, and it has to be wholly bound.
Again, like Carl said, I'm not saying how I vote on it, but I would like to see the information, get the input. Maybe the people down there would like to be part of the city.
I know one time the Mercedes dealership was petitioning to annex. I don't know whatever happened with that. Chris?
A couple things. I'm not necessarily in favor of forced annexation, but there are a couple points to this. We do provide city services, our police protection and some of the other services that we have. There are some inefficiencies that have been outlined by the staff's memo that they put together, the efficiencies that we could provide by us providing the services to the city. Also, we can enforce our property standards maintenance issues on these properties. Right now we have ones that are clearly not in compliance, but they're county, we can't enforce them and we have to deal with them. But probably the other issue is, as Marty has mentioned, this is an economic development issue. There are businesses that are taking advantage of what has grown around them. And clearly people do not realize that that is the case. And for us as a community, we do. So looking at our financial obligations for what we provide to these areas, it's something I think we need to consider whether or not we move forward depending on how we hear from the 8 residences and the owners of the other properties. I wouldn't have a problem starting the process, and we'll see where it goes from the feedback that we receive.
Your Honor, it's George. When everybody's had their chance to speak, I'd like to make a motion.
Diane?
I just was looking at this. Do we hold a public hearing for this or no? Do we have to hold a public hearing? Yeah. Okay. I just didn't see it.
There's several steps. Didn't you list all the steps, Bar, public hearings, mailing?
Yeah, there's a couple different.
Yeah. I didn't see the public hearing. I just missed it.
Rose?
Just one last question. Do we have actual statistics on how many of these residents, how many calls we had and how we did service them? I think that we keep logs, correct? And for the properties that we are talking about, could we maybe have actual statistics?
Sure. The only calls that we would receive would be through dispatch for police services, and then it would be mutual response situation, and so that would be it. Like, they wouldn't have called us necessarily for a property maintenance issue, so we wouldn't have records of any of that.
I think that a few years ago, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't somebody flood in one of those areas and requested the city to reimburse them?
Sewer
I'm not
flood?
sure if it was
Was it
Pleasure.
sewer? Yeah, I think the situation you're thinking of is on the other side of Route 47. So it's on Pleasure Street. This isn't
And
part
this
of that.
this is not that, okay. And we do have a log of police calls. Do we actually snow plow there and pick up their leaves on these properties? We don't offer them those services, correct?
No.
Not at this time. We do split time with Bristol Township on that little stretch. We do, like, it would be silly for us to pick up our snowplow blades, and it's silly for him to pick them up when he goes into Wackerland. So, yes, there's some trading that goes on.
Okay, so it's mainly police calls, correct, that we're addressing right now, and then the businesses as well on Route 34.
Anyone else?
Your Honor, this is George. I do have something else I'd like to propose. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Based on what I'm hearing, in order to move forward with this without having the possibility of it, my big hang-up here is not notices and not annexing or requesting to annex, but my big hang-up here is forced annexation. And based on what I'm hearing, why can't we, and I don't know if this would take a motion or if this would just take a policy decision here at council level, why can't we remove the possibility of forced annexation and start the process of notice and talking over with these different properties the annexation process without forcing them to annex? Did I lose anybody?
I don't know what the answer is to that, George. Diane, did you?
Well, I was just going to say that there's a lot of different property owners. You'd have to have consent from all of them, and there's always going to be differencing of opinion. So one guy's going to say yes, the next guy's going to say no, the next guy's going to say yes. So I think it's just a way to get the word to them so they can come in and come to us and talk to us.
Right, but if it's all or nothing, then that's what I'm hearing from Barb, and that's the case. If it's all or nothing, then why do we have to put a potential for forced annexation in there, especially being the fact that there's some people here that are very opposed or want to walk that thin line as to where that'll go if it gets into forced annexation. Why can't we at least start the process of talking to those property owners and seeing if they would like to annex to the city before agreeing here at council that there's a potential that we're going to force them into annexation? I'm all for talking to these people and these businesses and seeing if they're interested in annexing to the city, but I'd like to see, and like I said, I'd like to know if this can be done via a motion. This is a question to our attorney or whatever it may be, if we can remove that and start the process without the potential for forced annexation.
Starting the process is starting the process. I mean, this is actually the best way to start the process so that everyone jointly knows simultaneously that we're doing this not against one property or the other, but as a part of planning. Obviously, from what I'm hearing from the City Council, as well as yourself, that the public hearing and the notices will absolutely begin a talking process. I can tell you right now, having worked on the Star Mercedes annexation with the prior city administrator, the reason that they didn't annex eventually was because the city council wanted them to tear down the motel, now apartment buildings behind the used car dealership. And that's a commitment they didn't want to make. And I think that all of these in the discussions just since I've been around are that they would like to be a part of the city, but that the conforming to the building codes, etc., is just a hardship that they could not take on. So having the process and having a public hearing, I think you will hear these types of issues directly from the people as a group, as opposed to going to talk to one and another. Having done that many a time in the course of the last 30 years, it's a far longer and more expensive process.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion anyway because I think I think we've got some fine lines we're walking here, and if I make this motion, I'll feel more comfortable with a yes or no vote to this. I'm going to make a motion to remove the potential for forced annexation from this process, and to start the process of potential for annexation discussion amongst all property owners without the potential for forced annexation.
Could you repeat that, George?
Sure. I'll make a motion to remove the potential for forced annexation from this process and to start the process of discussions, of annexation discussions with property owners or with all property owners that are involved here in this particular discussion. So however you want to phrase that, my motion would be to remove the potential for forced annexation and to start the discussions amongst property owners for our intent to annex without annexing by force.
George, that's not an amendment to the motion on the table. That's a whole new motion.
Well, that may be. We could actually remove number, if you want to make it an amendment, you could just remove number 1 under the process. If you remove number 1, I believe, let me look here.
Number 1 is part of the state statute process for annexation under 7113 of the Illinois Municipal Code. So I'm looking at Kathy as you were saying the motion, and I believe what you're looking for really would just be best accomplished by a no vote on the original motion. Not that I'm the parliamentarian, but...
You're absolutely right, and that what I would suggest is if the motion fails, you might want to request whatever process we determine before the City Council to place your motion on our next agenda.
Okay, so if we vote no and we fail this motion, we can come back with another motion with a whole new annexation discussion.
Yours is a totally different motion, so obviously it would have a place on an agenda.
Okay.
Just a point of clarification now. We're looking at 2 distinct areas here, the one on 34 and a small piece on 47.
Correct.
Is that all covered under one motion?
It is.
Okay.
But it would be 2 separate ordinances as far as I'm aware.
At the time of annexation.
Correct.
All we're having is a motion to start the process. The process will require 2 petitions, yes.
I just have a question for Kathy. In this scenario, if we follow George's train of thought and remove the option of forced annexation off the table, what happens in a situation where we send out notices, people come in, and we maybe get 60, 70, 80% of the people who want to be annexed, or 90% of the people who want to be annexed, or there's a sole holdout. Since it has to be a contiguous 60-acre parcel, do we then lose the option of approving it?
It depends on which of the parcels. We'd have to look at it and see if the configuration works with those that are yes and those that are no.
Well, once you get into that, where you're doing a voluntary annexation,
You have a little more flex.
yeah, you negotiate with each individual property owner, and as long as they're contiguous, it would go in. I'm not optimistic that the amount would reach 60 or 70% of this. So that's why it was recommended. It was recommended because it's the most efficient service delivery perspective, and it's actually the most efficient process to achieve that. So then obviously there's the revenue component that is tied in with the service delivery.
We believe it's the most efficient process for you to hear from the people in a public hearing, as you stated. And judge if the majority are yes or no, and you will hear.
Mr. Mayor, just so I understand this, though, if all the residents say, no, we don't want this, it's raising our taxes and everything, but the businesses say, we're good with this, we can't bring the businesses in?
If the businesses are where the businesses are located, I believe there may be contiguity. So it would work. If that's, then it's not a 7-13-1, it becomes a 7-1-8, I
think.
Thank you. I'm not sure it's 1-8. Okay. I'm not sure. But it's a different section. It would fall under a different section of the annexation portion of the Illinois Municipal Code, which would just be voluntary. Bring a petition and we'll just
So we can go ahead and move ahead with the
right,
approval.
but that would not be this. That would not be under this code section. So yeah, and that's the point. The point is going forward in this way, you'll find out if you have any flexibility for some and not others.
So if we vote and we go ahead and we start the process, that doesn't mean that we're going to annex them. This is a clarification. If everybody comes in and in public hearing and it's overwhelming that they don't want to annex, we don't have to vote for it.
You don't know as a group the reasons they haven't annexed. That is the real issue. The real issue is, why haven't they? And I think by having a public hearing, you will find out why they haven't. I think I have an idea, and I think Chris hit on it on the head as to why they haven't annexed. Then part two of the process is there a possibility that for purposes of contiguity and service that the City Council would consider some flexibility in terms of conformance with code for the simple fact because it could bring in the businesses. So there's all different kinds of thoughts, negotiations, reasons for the property owners that I think you need to hear.
I just want to clarify that.
You do not have to vote yes.
We don't have to vote
No.
yes. So basically, we're starting the process, which will be including a public hearing.
Yes.
So we can
And
hear, and then we
notices.
can go from there.
But Jackie, I can't raise my hand, but I'm doing it here. But we can still get that same thing accomplished by not agreeing to forced annex. We can strike this down and then amend and do a new motion or a future discussion of discussing with each property owner the potential for one to see if they want to annex, and if they don't want to annex, why, without going ahead and blanketing the potential that we may force annex. And my problem with this is, and I think we can get the same thing that you want, Jackie, and some of the other people, we can do the same thing. We can find out the reasons, we can talk to the property owners, and we can begin the process of discussions without having to agree to potentially force annex people. And that's why I'm still going to vote no. I encourage everybody else to do the same.
The only thing I disagree with you, George, I think I agree with Kathy. This is the best, speediest process to bring in these people and talk to us. We do it one by one. Are we going to have them come into every city council meeting one by one by one? Or are they meeting with staff and we're all going to get out of the loop? If we do it this way, it's just a legit, an official way of doing it. That's how I'm looking. That's why I'm supporting this. Let's start it. Let's have a public hearing. Whoever can come, and let's get it over like in one big basket.
Chris?
We've seen voluntary annexations of individual parcels along 47 for years. They typically come in, they want to be a business, they want the city zoning, they want the city standards, they come in and they want to be part of the city that way. The individual voluntary annexation works because it's typically an individual for a specific purpose. If a business is already established, which in this case we're talking about 3 businesses and 1 apartment, if they wanted to come in voluntarily, they would have. There are usually issues that preclude that, the fees associated with it, the time it takes to get it done. We're also dealing here with 9 residential parcels and 7 vacant lots. So we have 7 vacant out of these 19. So what we're really dealing with is 9 residences. So we need to get them to come in and talk to us, as well as the 3 businesses. If we can facilitate an annexation for them, this speeds up the process and makes it much easier. It helps the city in the long run. McHugh Road then becomes a road that we are in control of. We maintain it from Route 34 down to the subdivision a couple blocks down, where we have some more county residences. The facilitation process that we have here is something...
But Chris, by agreeing to what we're reading here in front of us, what we're agreeing to here is the process. And the process outlined here in this summary memo is allowing for forced annexation.
Yes. If I can complete this one. We are starting a process that allows forced annexation. We may never get to that point. There are 10 criteria within this section of the state statutes that we have to go through. We may never make it that far to get to the point of forced annexation. This starts the process, gets us in, gets these residents, the businesses noticed, so we can begin a process and get some feedback. That's what we're doing. We will be able to get feedback, something that if we try to do this individually or just a couple parcels at a time, we're not going to achieve the goal of contiguity within the city here.
What makes this any different from Game Farm Road and looking at acquisition of easements through annexing or through easement acquisition? I mean, we're only talking, like you said, 8 or 9 people. I don't think that really that's going to slow down any process by discussing that with 8 or 9 individual people or businesses. I think we're squabbling over the fact that this is going to be slowed down if we go ahead and strike this now and begin individual discussions. And I just disagree with that. I don't think it's going to be. We're going to find out very quickly, and probably within a phone call, whether or not a business or an owner or a resident is going to be interested in annexing. And I think that can be done, in my guess, and find out the intent within a matter of one phone call to each property owner. So I still am going to vote no on this.
Are we ready to vote, or do we need to call the question?
Well, let's just vote. We're done. Everybody spoke twice.
Okay.
I think we can vote.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Gilson.
Nay.
Pat.
Aye.
Munns.
Aye.
Spears.
Aye.
Delosino.
Aye.
Funkhauser.
Aye.
Olszewski.
Aye.
Teeling.
Aye.
Alrighty, moving on to...
Your Honor, can you just repeat to me who the nays and yeas were? I had a hard time hearing the names when they were calling the votes.
You and Rose were nay, everyone else was yay.
And who were the nays and who were the yeas?
Everyone but you and Rose.
Okay, thank you.
Next is Public Safety Committee report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the purchase and installation of 3 American Safety T128 AC/DC outdoor warning sirens from Fulton Technologies in an amount not to exceed $52,500.
Second. Questions or comments on the warning sirens?
If I can just explain what was going on, as you know, we've had, after the tornado sirens went out a couple times this season, we had a couple residents call in and say that they were concerned because they weren't able to hear the tornado sirens. We had a survey done of the city, and it turns out that there are 3 dead zones within the municipality that has a weak tornado siren coverage. The areas were evaluated, and it turns out that up by Bristol Bay, by Autumn Creek, and down by Country Hills and Raintree, there are 3 dead zones. So we got the estimates in. We do have almost $100,000 designated in a fund that are to be used for tornado sirens based on impact fees that were not used. So the money is sitting there designated for this very purpose. We got estimates. We thought there would be around $20,000 each, but they came in at about $17,000 each, so we were happy to hear that. So I would ask the City Council to support this. This is a public safety issue. If you authorize this, we're ready to go. We just need comments to come in and find the power source. That's how we're going to connect the tornado sirens. I'd like to get them in this season, so when the season comes in next year, we're ready to go with the new sirens. So I ask for your consideration.
Your Honor, I had a question as well.
Hold on 1 second, George. Larry?
Okay.
I just wanted to add that Carlo was saying that that's what this money is designated for. We've been doing this for years, and I think it's imperative that we look at our system every so often just to make sure that we're not missing somebody. And it got brought to light by some residents, and I think hopefully this is going to take care of that problem. But this is not a new thing. We've been putting money aside for years to do this, so that's what it's there for.
George, go ahead.
2 things. First of all, I agree this is something that needs a yes vote. But I did have a question by a resident, and maybe that question can be answered now so I can answer the resident more specifically. When these are installed, where do we install? For example, the resident that asked me about it was in Windett Ridge, and they want to know where we put these things and how we choose a location as to where they go. Do we have any specifics on that?
The Chief has some information on that.
Typically what we do on the locations is there are public property locations such as fire departments, schools, specifically the one behind Windett Ridge. We're looking either over at the middle school or over at our water tower facility that's down there.
So it's over, you said over the middle school, about a Watertown?
It's going to be one of those two locations. That's one of the things that we still have to go out and survey the exact location. And a lot of that is going to depend on where ComEd's going to have the shortest distance to hook up.
Great, thank you, Chief.
Jackie?
Just to piggyback on this, how are we with the lightning sirens at parks? Have we ever looked, has that been updated? Are we progressing with that?
No, we currently have 3 lightning detectors. We have one on City Hall, we have one down at Yorkville Park,
One at Circle
one at
Center.
Circle Center, and we have no funding for further lightning detectors. They are very expensive, and very expensive on it too.
The park board has talked about buying mobile lightning detectors. I think, no, mobile lightning detectors. Okay.
Oh, okay, I was
Yeah.
wondering if they ever got anything at a bridge.
So typically where we do baseball events, we have them on hand.
It just, it's a good thing.
And I will confirm, being at Hometown Days last Saturday, that the one on City Hall does work.
Yes.
Okay, any more questions, comments on warning sirens? Roll call, please.
Hack,
Aye.
Munns,
Aye.
Spears,
Aye.
Colosimo,
Aye.
Funkhauser,
Aye.
Olszewski,
Aye.
Teeling,
Aye.
Gilson.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next is Administration Committee report. Looks like just a discussion item, there's no motion on there.
Yeah, this is just an informational item for the city council. This is the, what's in the packet for this agenda item is the final bond ordinance that'll be in front of you in 2 weeks, September 27th meeting. So we gave it to you 2 weeks in advance, that way you could read it, and if you have any questions for us, we'll be happy to answer them either in the interim or at the next meeting.
Will the blanks be filled in for the next meeting?
Yes.
Wonderful. Just making sure.
Any comments or questions on this bond refinancing? So we'll see it again in 2 weeks. Park Board. You taking that one?
Oh, I'll hand this over to our Director of Parks and Recreation.
This was just an informational item to let you know that we again received the Playful City USA award. They do have some small grants. It's mostly a way, they have a website where we have all our parks listed on there with pictures as a way to kind of publicize our parks in Yorkville. You know, I included the article that was in the USA Weekend in the packet, and it's just a way to show that, you know, we care about parks and play in town. So it's just to tell you that we did actually receive the award this year again.
One of only 3 cities in Illinois?
Yes, and one of 151 nationwide, but yeah, one of 3.
Very nice. Diane?
Yeah, I just want to say that a couple of weeks ago I called about one of the parks had some damage to it, and this resident called me back and said it was taken care of like that, and thank you very much for all your hard work.
Any other comments, questions on Playful City? Okay, next is Planning Commission. DBA. No City Council report. City Clerk. City Treasurer. Community and Liaison reports. Going once. Okay. Staff report.
We do have a couple short items for you, Your Honor. I'll have one, and then I'll turn it over to Ms. Noble and Ms. Shaw, if that's okay. First is that we did hire our code official intern last week, so we do have somebody that is out being proactive with not only weed complaints, but also property maintenance complaints. So I distributed property maintenance complaint report in the Administrator's Weekly on Friday, just to give you an idea of what we're already encountering just by being proactive. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Noble.
Okay, on your dais, you have information about a meet and greet with our new building code official, Mark Harden. We met him last couple of weeks here. He's holding a meet and greet where he's going to introduce himself to the local developers and builders and explain the new code changes, and that'll be September 20th at 8 a.m. It'll be here at City Hall, and it'll probably be about an hour and a half. Later on in the year, he will be doing a seminar on certain sections of the code that may require additional insight from his perspective and getting insight from builders on the new changes and how they're adapting to those changes. So be looking forward to that in the next couple of months or so.
I have a few items that are coming up, but first I wanted to thank everyone for helping with Hometown Days. That was a lot of fun, and we'll hopefully have a good time again next year. On September 21st, which is next Wednesday, we are going to have a playground ribbon cutting. And that's at Raintree Village, which is our new castle-themed park, and I hope many of you have been out there. It's wildly popular, and we had a lot of fun with the theming. I actually have to give, I guess, some props to Scott's staff, because they came up with all those bridges that are out there that you'll see, the drawbridges. They actually designed them, and the parks guys, really did a good job with it. So. The rest of it, though, was a lot of fun. We do have a round table under the shelter, so we have Knights of the Round Table. We have a stone out there, so we're going to have a sword in the stone, and we kind of went with the whole castle and medieval theme. Anyway, so that's next Wednesday from 4:30 to 6:30, and we are going to have hot dogs, chips, and a drink on sale for $1.50, just to cover the cost of it. And then there's also a rec center open house next weekend on Saturday from 8 to 12, which is the 25th. We're going to have an open house. And then there's also a membership, a special from Friday through Sunday. We're going to have no registration fee for new yearly members. So that's just to get the word out and let you all know that if you want to come stop by for the open house, they will have that from 8 to noon.
Rose, did you have something?
I just had one quick one for Christy. Do we still direct all of our property code violations and the weed ordinance violations to you at this time?
Sure, you can direct them to me and I'll forward them on to Mark.
Okay.
Jeff. Jeff is our intern, Jeff Severson. And if you see him, say hello. He's a nice guy.
Oh, I'll keep him busy, I'm sure. Thank you.
I did have a couple items I forgot about. Last Sunday was our Patriots Walk. We had a very good turnout, about 200 people. Congressman Holcomb was here. I spoke. The commander from the American Legion spoke. A very, very good event. And I did have lunch with the new director of the Aurora Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And he was only on the job for 10 days when I had talked to him. So as soon as he gets his bearings, he's going to come in and present to us and open it up to questions and give us a full rundown of what they do for us and everything else. So sometime in the next few weeks he'll be in here. Okay, if there's no other community reports, staff reports, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Are we going to do additional business?
Yes, we're going to do executive session, then we have 2 action items, and then additional business.
Oh.
I want to do the executive session before we talk about the settlement agreement and the KenCom agreement.
Okay.
So they're both pending litigation.
Okay.
So I will entertain a motion to go into executive session for collective negotiating matters, purchase or lease of real property, and litigation.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes, roll call.
Roll call, please.
Spears.
Aye.
Wilczewski.
Aye.
Colosimo.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Seeley.
Aye.
Gilson.
Aye.
Bunkhauser.
Aye.
Lenz.
Are we going to be able to move George in there?
Yeah, George, I will call you on the conference room phone. Great, thank you.